Out of money, CCP retroactively investigates 30 years of taxes, private enterprises lament. The Chinese dream is dying. Financial Times, U.S. aims to provoke CCP to attack Taiwan. She doesn't take the bait. Anhui farmer writes open letter to Zelenskyy, surprising outcome. Australian Prime Minister calls Qiang Keqiang, sparks hot debate. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Out of money, CCP retroactively investigates 30 years of taxes, private enterprises lament. Due to the ongoing contraction of the real estate market and challenges in economic recovery, local governments across China are facing financial difficulties and are increasingly seeking new funding sources. This financial strain has led to intensified tax enforcement measures, with reports from mainland China indicating that several publicly traded companies have disclosed tax payments which are expected to impact their financial results negatively. Mr. Li, a tax officer in a mainland tax bureau, elaborated on the reasons behind the aggressive tax collection, explaining, naturally, the longer the period of assessment, the greater the tax liability because the current shortfall in tax revenue is quite substantial. Without extending the investigation period, the taxes collected in the short term won't be sufficient to bridge the deficit or meet the tax collection targets, necessitating a longer review period. Additionally, the tax bureau's thorough knowledge of these companies enables more significant findings the further back the investigation goes. This proactive approach to tax collection has tangible impacts on companies. For instance, on June 13, Weiwei Company, a well-established Chinese company, disclosed that its principal subsidiary, Hubei Zhejiang Liquor, failed to submit the required tax filings for consumption taxes from January 1, 1994, to October 31, 2009. Consequently, it faced a demand to pay back taxes exceeding 85 million yuan, about $11.7 million USD. Another case is Ningbo Bohue Chemical Technology Company, Limited, also known as Bohue Company, which announced it would halt production due to a tax notice demanding a payment of 500 million yuan, about $69.8 million USD. This notice significantly impacted the company, leading to a nearly 20% plunge in Bohue Company's share price on June 14. American economist Davy J. Wong commented on the broader implications of these tax measures, stating, "This situation ultimately illustrates excessive government expenditure versus insufficient revenue, resulting in a severe fiscal deficit, particularly at the local level. This deficit prompts various unusual fiscal measures like increased fines, tax audits, and a variety of fee collections and new tax impositions, indicative of the overall economic downturn." The ongoing investigations and tax demands have stirred significant concerns among businesses, as indicated by similar announcements from other companies such as Hualin Securities, Zonda Mining, and Peking University Pharmaceutical. The pervasive uncertainty and financial pressure have led to speculation that a wave of companies might choose to deregister and start anew if these aggressive tax assessments continue. Mr. Li further noted the difficult position of businesses under this regime, stating, "This pressure is now being transferred to companies, which have no option but to comply, as they are powerless in these circumstances." In China, tax law interpretation is controlled by tax bureaus, not the businesses affected by it. Companies must accept whatever interpretation the tax authorities provide. Mr. Li informed reporters that local governments often support tax evasion due to financial constraints, encouraging tax authorities to press businesses harder for tax collection. As economic downturns and land-based financial strategies, companies, burdened by heavy taxation, try to build beneficial relationships with tax officials to mitigate pressures. Economist Wong noted the uncertain regulatory environment, particularly concerning Sino-foreign ventures, heightens business fears. Companies traditionally believed they were compliant with tax laws, but the changing regulatory scene casts a negative outlook on Chinese businesses and fosters public anxiety about tax liabilities, negatively impacting economic activity. Public debate centers on whether ongoing issues stem from persistent tax evasion or new tax introductions. If tax evasion is continuous, questions about its origins and potential official gains arise. Retroactive tax collection as a solution is seen as insufficient. If the issue involves new taxes, applying them retroactively is viewed as inappropriate. Wang further explained that the interpretation of many tax laws lies with tax departments, not businesses. This leaves companies uncertain about compliance and fearful of retroactive tax demands. Mr. Li added that excessive taxation drives companies to evade taxes, facing additional pressures from corrupt officials. If challenged, these demands can make continuing operations impossible, and enforcing back payments severely complicates business survival. A political and economic trends expert with 2 decades of experience observed, this is becoming the standard in the era following land finance. Local governments are broke, but life must go on. The tightening of land finance has ripple effects on various aspects of life and the economy. Meanwhile, Mr. Li revealed to reporters that numerous instances of tax evasion and tax avoidance were conducted with the backing of local government authorities. The Chinese dream is dying. No single measure can capture the entire story, but the accumulated evidence paints a grim picture of decline for China's middle class, which once exuded optimism and confidence. Many are now losing ground and slipping back toward poverty. Mr. Milton Ezrati is a chief economist for Vested, a New York-based communications firm, has given his own analysis in an article titled "The Chinese Dream is Dying." According to Mr. Ezrati, this situation poses a significant challenge for the Chinese Communist Party. It suggests that the leadership has failed to fulfill its part of an unspoken agreement with the Chinese populace. In this implicit contract, the people would passively accept the party's rule in exchange for economic prosperity. To date, the public response has been largely passive. People have curtailed their spending and are striving, albeit with slim chances of success, to rebuild their wealth. The outcome of pushing this situation to extremes is uncertain, considering the notable unrest during the 2009 recession. The root of the issue lies in the ongoing property crisis. It began to severely impact the Chinese economy and financial sector in 2021 when the major residential real estate company Evergrande disclosed its inability to meet its financial commitments. The ensuing financial disruptions have slowed the pace of both home construction and purchases. Crucially for the middle class, these developments have also reduced the value of existing homes, which constitute a significant portion of household wealth for most Chinese families, especially those in the middle class. For instance, last December, the average price of existing homes in 70 medium to large Chinese cities dropped by 6.3% from the previous year, marking the most severe decrease since this data began being recorded in 2011. A particularly revealing indicator is a recent report from the Finance Ministry, which noted a significant decrease in personal income tax revenues. For January and February, income tax receipts totaled approximately 362.2 billion yuan, about $45.1 billion USD, a 16% decrease from 2023 levels. This drop is indicative of a shift in household incomes falling below 100,000 yuan, about $13,782 per year, the threshold below which no personal income tax is due. As this income level also delineates the lower boundary of the middle class in China, the reduction in tax revenues suggests a significant number of families have dropped below middle class status. Additional data from Bloomberg News on Chinese starting salaries corroborates this downtrend. Starting salaries decreased by 1.3% in the fourth quarter of 2023, marking the third consecutive quarter of decline. Bonus payouts have also dwindled, decreasing by an average of 17.5% from the previous year, with even steeper declines in the internet and telecommunications sector, 27%, and the financial sector, 35%. Given these developments, it is not surprising to see a steep decline in luxury sales. Gucci reported a 20% drop in its China sales this quarter compared to the same period last year. Swiss watch exports to China have decreased by 25%, and high-end restaurants in China are also experiencing downturns, particularly as traffic shifts to more affordable dining options. Another significant indicator is the burgeoning inventory of second-hand pianos, pushing prices down, a reflection of middle-class families relinquishing what was once a symbol of their status. All of this information points to bleak economic prospects for China. The middle class is being advised to stay home, reduce spending, and attempt to rebuild savings. For Xi Jinping and other Chinese leaders, who have implicitly promised prosperity, this troubling picture should be unsettling, to say the least. Financial Times: U.S. aims to provoke CCP to attack Taiwan. Xi doesn't take the bait. According to the Financial Times on June 16, which cited multiple informed sources, CCP leader Xi Jinping asserted during an April 2023 meeting with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen that the U.S. is attempting to trick the CCP into invading Taiwan. However, he stated that he would not take the bait. Another source mentioned that Xi Jinping had issued similar warnings to his own officials. The Financial Times believes that these remarks provide a glimpse into Xi Jinping's current views on the Taiwan issue. The comments Xi Jinping made to Ursula von der Leyen are reportedly his first of this nature to a foreign leader. Xi also expressed that a conflict with the United States would undermine many of China's accomplishments and threaten his objective of realizing the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation by 2049. However, scholarly Anhui, based in Australia, expressed skepticism about the authenticity of these reports. Speaking to The Sound of Hope, he talked about the CCP's continuous military provocations, including the use of military aircraft and vessels to breach the median line of the Taiwan Strait and even entering Taiwanese restricted waters to escalate military threats against Taiwan. He commented, "If the intelligence is accurate," and he indeed said this, "it clearly shows he actually fears the United States greatly. Furthermore, if he is purposely lying, the most likely reason would be to create discord between the United States and Europe. He understands that if the free world unites, the CCP would be unable to act unrestrainedly. Therefore, he is continuously attempting to drive a wedge between the US and the EU. Another implication is his interest in Europe's stance in a potential China-US conflict, which he wants to understand but cannot openly discuss." According to Taiwan's New Talk, Jude Blanchett, director of Chinese Studies at the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, (CSIS), observed that some of Xi's subordinates are attempting to guide him away from more aggressive policies. He stated, "Regardless of how Xi Jinping's statements are interpreted, it is apparent that his decision-making environment and the information he is receiving are distorted, possibly by his close officials or by his own authoritarian actions." According to The Sound of Hope, the Biden administration has long stated that it does not support Taiwanese independence but opposes any unilateral change to the status quo. In response to the CCP's overt military threats to Taiwan, the U.S. is aiding Taiwan in enhancing its defense capabilities by selling advanced weapons and providing military training, as outlined in the Taiwan Relations Act. Some mainland Chinese scholars and retired military officers claim that the U.S. is attempting to irritate the CCP by supplying weapons to Taiwan and implementing other measures, thus engaging the CCP in military confrontations. In January at the Asia Society, former Chinese ambassador to the U.S., Cui Tiankai, suggested that the CCP will not fall into the traps set by others, indirectly criticizing the U.S. Former Beijing lawyer and chair of the Federation for a Democratic China Canada, Li Jianping, believes there are forces trying to provoke Xi Jinping into war. He noted the Russia-Ukraine conflict shows the Western democracy's commitment to oppose aggression and protect allies. He argued that if a military conflict over Taiwan were to occur, the US-led Western alliance would likely defeat or severely weaken the CCP. This could drastically worsen China-West relations, causing significant losses and potentially destabilizing Xi's lifelong rule. A total defeat would bring even more severe consequences, making an attack on Taiwan a very risky move for Xi personally. According to Lai, the only scenario in which he would consider military action is if there were a severe domestic political and economic crisis threatening his leadership, with the risk of being overthrown or deposed. In such a case, to divert attention from domestic issues, he might risk everything in a desperate gamble. Currently, although there are various crises, political, economic, social, they do not fundamentally threaten his hold on power, so he is unlikely to take this risk. Li Jianping further explained, driven by animosity towards Western universal values and the free democratic system, the Communist Party fosters domestic hatred, aggressively promoting populism, nationalism, and authoritarianism. Many people buy into this, turning anti-American and anti-Western, shifting the ideological spectrum leftward. This leftist fervor advocates for the military retaking of Taiwan. Meanwhile, those on the right who embrace universal values of freedom and democracy support Taiwan and oppose military aggression. Xi Jinping, perceiving Li Chingti's comments that the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China are not subordinate to each other as harmful to his ambitions for Taiwan, attempts to strike a balance between these viewpoints. In reality, he does not dare to act. However, he needs to appear bold and decisive, and thus verbally pushes the narrative of reclaiming Taiwan through military might to the extreme. Consequently, he occasionally orders his military, diplomatic, and defense personnel to make noise, even using naval and air forces for blockades, military drills, and deterrence. These actions are primarily performative, aimed at balancing the left and right, especially to reassure the extreme leftists, giving them a semblance of hope. This balancing act is his strategy to appear as if he is ready to act, even though he dares not. This political maneuvering is because Xi Jinping seeks to maintain zero risk. Anhui farmer writes open letter to Zelenskyy, surprising outcome. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has persisted for more than 2 years, during which the Chinese Communist Party has consistently supported Russia. Russia has been facing shortages of materials, technology, and weapons due to Western sanctions, and China has helped to mitigate these shortages. Chinese state media has also been overwhelmingly supportive of Russia. Despite this official stance, there are occasionally dissenting voices among the Chinese public, which are often suppressed by the authorities. For example, a farmer from Dongji County in Qizhou City, Anhui Province, named Zhang Liping, used his social media to support Ukraine by making a donation of 1,000 yuan, about $137.82, and sending an open letter expressing sympathy and support to President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. He also expressed his hopes for Ukraine's victory and the triumph of peace. Following this, on June 13, he was questioned by the public security forces for over 4 hours at night and was forced to delete the posts related to his donation. Zhang's actions received considerable support online, with comments praising him as "Is this a farmer?" His ideological realm is much higher than some well-known influencers, and others describing the move as the light of humanity. After his message was captured in a screenshot and spread on Platform X, it drew the attention of overseas Chinese netizens who commented, "Scared these bandits to death," and "a very normal donation," interpreted by the Communist Party as a subversive act by foreign forces, which is utterly ridiculous, and in a cesspool, being a normal person is a crime. Since Russia initiated its invasion of Ukraine, Ukraine has been desperately resisting, while the CCP has secretly supported Russia, assisting President Putin in evading Western sanctions. CCP leader Xi Jinping has met with President Putin 4 times. The CCP's official media has aligned with Putin's stance in their propaganda efforts, and some individuals from mainland China, influenced by official narratives, have even gone to fight in Russia. Meanwhile, expressions of anti-war sentiment and support for Ukraine are subjected to censorship and suppression. Australian Prime Minister calls Qiang Keqiang, sparks hot debate. On June 17, the Australian government organised a formal welcome ceremony for Qiang during his visit to this country at the Parliament House in Canberra. In his speech, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese incorrectly welcomed Keqiang instead of Qiang. Video footage from the event showed Qiang listening with an expressionless face, blinking frequently. After circulating on the internet, the video sparked lively debates among netizens, with comments such as, "Albanese, well done, who knows, maybe the wronged Keqiang's spirit possessed him." Comrade Qiang appeared helpless, or missing Keqiang. Last year, on October 27, the Chinese Communist Party announced that the former Premier Keqiang had died suddenly of a heart attack in Shanghai on October 26 while resting. Despite efforts at resuscitation, he passed away at 0:10 the following day. This occurred just over 3 months after Keqiang had stepped down as premier. Known for his disagreements with Xi Jinping during his lifetime, Keqiang's death has fueled much speculation. Reports suggest that Qiang, who succeeded Keqiang, despite being low-key and cautious, has not secured Xi Jinping's trust. According to Wang Huntao, a political scientist in the United States, Xi Jinping was dissatisfied with Qiang for not effectively clearing away Keqiang's policies, feeling that although Keqiang was deceased, his influence persisted. Was Qiang possibly silenced by Xi Jinping? During his visit to New Zealand, Qiang displayed unexpected behavior. On June 14, while touring the Plant and Food Research Center, journalists were informed they could only take photos and videos, but were not to ask questions. However, Paula Penfold, a senior reporter from Stuff TV, questioned Qiang about the CCP's history of interference in New Zealand. Qiang did not reply and was promptly escorted from the building by officials. Commenting on this issue, Li Lin, a current affairs commentator, noted that Qiang could have simply stated, "I am not aware of what you're referring to," but chose not to, implying that his silence was not voluntary and suggesting that he might have been restricted from speaking freely abroad by Xi Jinping. Qiang, who ascended from Xi Jinping's close secretary to premier, has been criticized for his performance, particularly his apparent silence in international settings. In June of the previous year, Qiang made his international diplomatic debut in Germany. On June 20, during a press conference in Berlin with German Chancellor Scholz, the Chinese delegation declared they would not respond to any questions, even suggesting that the premier would prefer not to meet with the media at all if questions were allowed. This stance was met with criticism from several German media organizations. Senior commentator Zhang Tianliang explained to the Epoch Times that Qiang's reluctance to engage with the media could indicate either a lack of confidence or that his ability to speak independently is significantly restricted, requiring directions from Xi Jinping before he can respond. Zhang described either scenario as highly abnormal for the CCP's political operations. At the CCP's two sessions in March 2024, the long-standing tradition of the premier's press conference, which had been held for over 30 years, was unexpectedly cancelled. Moreover, the National People's Congress passed the first amendment in over 40 years to the organizational law of the State Council, incorporating upholding the central authority and unified leadership as a principal political directive. This amendment is widely viewed by international observers as a move that diminishes the roles of the State Council and the Premier. The Economist, on March 27 of this year, analyzed the fluctuations in the CCP's economic management team, suggesting that Premier Qiang may retire in 2027 upon reaching the age of 68. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.